I know exactly where I am on the graph if you give me x values. For y values, I don't know. So make sure you give me x values. Where is this graph increasing? From where? From 0. And notice I only gave the x value there. From 0 to where? Infinity. Everyone agree? So that's it. Right, because you always read from left to right. So when am I going up to the right? When is this graph decreasing? When is it going down? Negative infinity to 0. Now, some of you are saying, but it was up there. Why didn't I say positive infinity to 0? Someone answer that question for me. X values, right? And so x is negative infinity to 0. So remember, you're always using x's, not y's. On increasing and decreasing, you can always use parentheses. On increasing and decreasing, we will never count off one way or the other. There's actually math controversy out there on which one you should use. My opinion is that if you put brackets, you would say you were both increasing and decreasing at 0 until you have x%. So I would say you're either increasing or decreasing at 0. That makes more sense to me. But both answers would be accepted. When is the graph positive and when is it negative? What do I even mean by positive and negative? Okay, above the x-axis, right? Because a positive value would be above the x-axis. A y value would be positive when it's above the x-axis. So when is this gap above the x-axis? Okay, from 2 to infinity and from negative infinity to 2. Sorry, negative infinity to negative infinity. Does that make sense? Because I am positive here and here. So I'm above the x-axis. Questions about that one? When is the graph negative 2 to 2? This part below the x-axis. And again, we are using x values because those make sense. Would it make any sense for me to tell you from 0 to negative 2 or something like that for that value? Would that give you a better idea of where to know? So make sure you get x values. Any questions about that? So, you try this. Have y'all seen these questions on the ACT before? Yes. I would say 3 parts of it are increasing. Nope, 2 parts of it are increasing. 2 parts of it. Always X. Anytime we want to know where something's happening at. remember, we're going to read the graph from left to right. So, we are talking about increasing and decreasing. I'm going to use a red for decreasing and blue for increasing. Okay, so I'm starting on the left. On the left, am I increasing or decreasing? I'm going down, so definitely decreasing. Does everyone agree? Then I start to do what? Increase. Then I start to decrease. Oh, didn't change colors, so I have to try it again. Then I start to decrease. And then I start to increase. So everyone see how that works? So now I'm just going to label that increasing. It's the blue stuff. So from, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4? -4 to 0. And 4 to infinity. Oh, goodness. No, you're right. It doesn't have an arrow. I agree with you. So 4 to 6. Any questions about that? And then decreasing from negative infinity to -4, 0 to 4. Any questions about that? Okay, now let's talk about positive and negative. Let's use green and purple. When is the graph positive? Good. When it's above the x-axis, so this part right here, negative infinity to -5. And from -1.5, yeah, whatever you should do, fine. To 6. Since that stops. And if you put -1, that's fine. Stress about that. We will talk about how we can find that exactly if we have a function in a calculator. It would be a 0 to find a 0 to do that. So we'll talk about that. On this graph, you just got that estimate. Any questions about that one? And from here on, it stays above the x-axis. So I have to break that. Negative would be in that spot. Does everyone agree? -5. Is that what I said that was earlier? -5 to -1.5. No. If you didn't use -1.5, that's fine. But if you did, it should be the same value, both on the negative, positive thing. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to quit with all the lines because they get confusing. That was really not for you. That was for me watching at home. That's so they could see where I was pointing. Okay, increasing. I'm going to read from left to right. So where am I increasing? Negative infinity to wherever this maximum is. Looks like maybe at 4.5. And then from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to infinity. Again, I'm not going to take you apart on that 4.5. If you put -5, okay, sounds good. Close enough, right? Now, if we have a calculator and a function, we'll expect a little bit more accuracy. But on a graph, we just have to take what we can see. So that green line where it stops increasing. And then it increases again. Decreasing from -4.5 to -2. And then from 2 to 5. distinction between open circle and closed circle on those endpoints. Again, I'm not going to count either way. Now, if you happen to put a bracket on that -2, that's fine. Increasing, decreasing, I will never count off brackets versus parentheses. Now, for positive and negative, will I? Yes, because you can tell when it's 0, when it's positive, when it's negative. Increasing, decreasing, we'll take a little bit more. Typically, you put a bracket on a closed circle and a parenthesis on an open circle. But because of increasing and decreasing, where I'm not including endpoints anyway in my increasing and decreasing, it just doesn't affect increasing and decreasing only. Anything else will take it into account. Decreasing. Will you? One of you. Yeah. Not very good. Good question. Let me erase my Greek line so we can see it well. Almost. Student. Almost. Why am I saying almost? At 5, what would you say the value of that is at 5? What's 0? Is it positive or negative? It's neither. So I actually have to break it up a little bit, don't I? Because it's positive from -2 to 5. And then again from 5 to infinity. So almost -2 to infinity. But at 5 it's 0, so it's neither positive nor negative at 0, right? 0 is not a positive number and it's not a negative. Oh, sorry, not -2. You're right. That was a good confused face. Any questions about that one? Now, negative's a little easier, isn't it? Because it's negative from negative infinity to -2. Again, why did we have to break at 5? Someone remind me why we had a break there? Because it equaled 0 there. So remember, if it's 0, it's not positive. So I have to stop the positive for a second. Okay, let's look at the last one. We getting better at this? Increasing from 0 to 7. Any questions about how I got that? We're going up to the right from 0 to 7. Decreasing from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From -6 to 0. Again, if you put brackets on that 6, I would give it to you. I also would give it to you if you didn't. So either way. Positive. -6 to -2. And 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7. Questions about that? Now here I don't know for sure what that is, but if that's a filled in dot on positive, if that's a filled in dot on the -6, for positive I would need to bracket that. I don't know for sure if it is or not, filled in or not. Does that make sense? Why I would need a bracket? Because if there's a point there, then it's still positive there and I would want to include it. Increasing and decreasing, I don't care either way. Positive and negative, make sure that if there's a point there, you include it. Does that make sense? And negative from -2 to 3. Are y'all okay if I go ahead and go on? Alright, so determine the function is increasing or decreasing on the following intervals. Well, what do we need to figure that out? What do we need to do? graph because I know what increasing and decreasing looks like on a picture. So everyone get your calculator out and graph this. Let's say that. Either way. Scrabble is the shape. I got it. Now this asks the question a little differently. It doesn't ask me when is it increasing or when is it decreasing. It says on the following intervals is it increasing or decreasing, which is kind of a weird question, but not horrible. So the first question is when x is greater than 0, where is that? On the right, correct? Is this increasing or decreasing on the right? What does x less than 0 mean? So less than 0, right? So what am I doing on the left of 0? Remember, we always read left to right no matter what. Decreasing. Don't forget to read left to right. This is going down from left to right. And this is going up from left. Any questions about that one? State if the following functions are concave up, concave down in the first quadrant. How am I going to find that out? Graph it. What does concave up look like? A U up. What does concave down look like? A U down. Now it could be just a slight piece of a U or a slight piece of a U going up. So get your calculator out. I'm going to do the same thing. And let's find out. Yeah, start and only do one at a time because if you do more than one at once, you'll get confused on which one's which, right? So I want to know in the first quadrant, yes. The first one is 0.7, the second one is 1.7, and the third one is 5.4. Do what? Sort of. It doesn't have to go all the way down, but it has to. I want to know, is it curving downwards or is it curving upwards? Now, at first glance, I'm going to zoom 6, which is probably what you have on there. At first glance, though I think I could probably answer it from this picture, it's tough because it kind of looks like a line at this point, doesn't it? So I'm going to change my window to see the first quadrant better because I don't really need to see any of the negative stuff. Agreed? So I'm going to go to my window and I'm going to change my window from 0 to 30. I'm going to get a little bigger on my x's, but I'm going to get rid of the negative side. And I'm just going to do 0 to 30 twice. Now can you tell which way it's curving? Which way is it curving? Downward? Does everyone see that downward turn in it? Like if we kept going, I can kind of tell that my y doesn't really need to be that big. I'm going to take it back to 10. Do we see the downward curve in it as we go? So that's concave down. In the first quadrant. let's look at the next one. The next one I can kind of tell, I probably do want my Y's to be a little bigger on this one. Does everyone see that? It kind of goes up fast. Some of you could probably answer it without adjusting your window at all. Which way does it appear to curve? Up. So the big thing is being able to just make sure you can see it. Okay. Now let's do 5/4. X to the 5. Whoops, that's not good. I left my window the same. Do you feel like you can tell which way it's curving? Which way? Up. I agree. So those are just look at the picture and see concave up. No, 5/4. This is your homework. It is a book page. You have quite a bit of time left in class. Like I said, I think I may just go ahead and hand out the review. That way you have it. It's not due until next week sometime. I'll give you a due date on it later. But that way, if you finish this in class, you can do it, pick away at the review. Remember on the review, the two things you don't know how to do yet are direct and inverse variation. Sometime either end of next week or at the beginning of the following week, we will start that test. It will be a 2-day test. This is due on Monday, definitely. It is all, but how many problems is that? 9 maybe? You got this.